trying to exact an answer from me. Pagka ganon, maghinto tayo dito. That is not proper. That is not fair.
Mr. President, we're not...
Hindi, titindig ako dito.
And if ever it was not vetted, it was their fault. However, the PDEA has now confirmed again what they have previously and consistently said, that the drug list never passed through their hands. So it begs the question, saan po galing yung master list ng former president po natin? Yet he does not recall and he would not answer which lead agency was involved with the preparation and the vetting. So I think this is another point that we would have to discover later on through other resource persons for the Quad. And I will no longer belabor that point. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to my next question given my limited time.
Mr. Chair, itong PDEA na ito, bago to. Hindi yan ang PDEA ko.
That is correct, Mr. President. This PDEA that was recently appointed after the former Director General Wilkins Villanueva. Okay.
Bago to, so I don't know.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, just a few more questions given the time constraint. Mr. President, I'd like to ask about yung 2016 meeting, allegedly. And according to the testimony of Colonel Garma, you made a phone call to her asking about how to come up with a task force for the nationwide implementation of your supposed drug war. You mentioned earlier under questioning by Congressman Pimentel that Colonel Garma is lying, that you never had that conversation. And if I'm not mistaken, you said that she approached you with information as to drug suspects, and that, if I understand correctly, he called Leonardo to corroborate the same. Is that your statement, Mr. President?
Many times, hindi lang sila, lahat. Pero as to the statement of forming a unit, you cannot do that because that would be a violation of policy and law regulation. It is only the police, national police, who can create units and whatever units that they want. Ang mayor walang pakialam talaga. It's out of yung gano, makautos lang siya to do something. But he can supervise the activities of the police by, requesting the assignment to people here and there. But you do not have the mayors now, the executives have no longer the control of the police.
Mr. President, just a clarification. This alleged meeting in 2016 was in preparation for the nationwide rollout of your drug war. You were no longer mayor, presidente na po kayo. And at this time, I believe that the PNP would be answerable to you. So it would definitely be within your powers to order the Chief PNP to create a special unit in the same way that the Chief PNP was answerable to you when you had him implement Oplan Double Barrel. So with that, Mr. President, seeing that it was within your power, if you willed it, that a task force be committed, the task force be organized, it is very much possible po that you called Lieutenant Garma asking how to formulate this thing. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I just don't agree that you were powerless to create this task force. As far as this representation is concerned, it is well within your power. So with that, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, how do we reconcile now your statement that you never made that call to Garma to organize that task force when Lieutenant Garma Colonel Garma was able to give specific details about your call to her, about your meeting in relation to finding a person to manage your drug war in the person of Colonel Leonardo? This fact you stated on national television, I believe it was an interview with Attorney Panelo, in which you gave your reasoning for selecting someone of that religious affiliation. So, how can you say now, Mr. President, na hindi totoo yung affidavit ni Garma when there are bits and pieces of facts there that you yourself corroborated?
Bits and pieces naman kaya. It can be the whole of the affidavit that what's saying now. Hindi naman ko maintindihan kung anong pinagsasabi niya.
But this
I have not read the affidavit so that I would not be in a position to correctly really to respond to your question. I am at a loss kasi ikaw yung may hawak ng... So you are now trying to investigate me. Para kang investigador. Yung may hawak ka ng affidavit dyan, executed by another person, and you're trying to confront me with the statements made in that affidavit, and you're trying to exact an answer from me. Pagka ganon, maghinto tayo dito. That is not proper.
Mr.
That
President,
is not fair.
Mr. President, we're not...
Hindi. Titindig ako dito. Bigyan mo muna po ng... Yung mga affidavit, basahin ko before I answer you.
Go ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Raj.
Mr. President, I will rephrase. Just to reiterate the context, this is not to confront you with the affidavit, but we want to reconfirm your statement with your interview with Attorney Panelo. Because, just for your information, Mr. President, we understand you do not have the affidavit now, but one of the bits and pieces that was relayed by Colonel Garma is that you contacted her looking for a person with a particular skill set and religious affiliation to help you manage and drive your drug war. Now, that fact you have corroborated in your interview with Attorney Panelo when you said that you were looking for a person of that religious affiliation because they are trustworthy with money. So I am now asking, Mr. President, with your corroboration in that interview, does that not jibe with what Colonel Garma is saying?
It does not jibe because I was looking for a particular person. Maybe a member of that sect, but it had to be one who has the brain and the balls to do the job.
So, Mr. President, if you were looking for a person to fill that position, what position did you have in mind? Was this your drug war czar?
No. May drug enforcement unit tayo sa gobyerno. It cannot be they were there to just ask for an advice of how they would participate in the drug war. Hindi sila pwedeng mag-create ng unit because that is not allowed. It is only the police who can create a unit or a division. The mayors do not have that power.
Mr. President, I'm talking about this time you were already president po, no?
Yes.
So, you were in a power to create that position. I'll just go back to your statement po, no, Mr. President. You said you were looking for someone with the smarts and the balls, sorry for the language, you were looking for someone of that capacity. Now, according to Colonel Garma, you were looking for that person to manage your drug war. But you are saying now that it is not to manage your drug war because you couldn't create that position.
It's a statement. Do not bind me with your statement.
No, I'm now asking, Mr. President, about your statement. Why were you looking for someone with the brains and the capacity? Ano po yung job na, ano po yung trabaho na ibibigay mo po sana sa taong iyon?
Because drug money is Alam mo, that is why we are not succeeding because drug money is supporting the syndicate. Madali ang pera. Nagpibigay ng pera yan. Huwag na tayo magbulahan dito.